let's go, let's go.
Theme parks. We all know them, we all love them. From the amazing attractions they hold to all the fun things you can do with friends or family. It's definitely one of the better things to do on vacation or overall just planning a fun hangout. And when it comes to theme parks, I'm betting a lot of people know Six Flags. Probably one of the more iconic theme park chains. And it makes sense, considering they have 24 properties all over North America, 13 of them being actual theme parks. It's hard not to notice Six Flags. And while other parks like Disney or Universal focus on the overall experience, if you're going for thrills, Six Flags is definitely the way to go, as they have numerous record-breaking attractions and lots of fun rides to check out. But while Six Flags is a great park, and it does have its pros, it also suffers some cons, leading to the reason why you don't see Six Flags above Disney or Universal, and why not every park of Six Flags' chain is considered great. So what's the deal? With Six Flags having numerous locations, doesn't that make them popular? Shouldn't they be great? Well, yes and no. And in today's video, we're going to cover what's going on with Six Flags, and why I believe the park is straying away from where it originally started, and why we see it not hold up against other competitors like Cedar Fair or even SeaWorld. But before we get to today's video, if you're new here, welcome to the channel for all those thrill seekers. On JB Thrills, make all sorts of content related to theme parks and thrill rides no matter where they're located. And no matter the attraction, if it's a thrill, it's covered on this channel. So if you're interested, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to know when new videos come on my channel and help me reach my goal of 10k subscribers. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So the question of the day is, did Six Flags really lose its touch? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the history of the chain, and it starts a little bit more than 60 years ago, deep in the heart of Texas, in DFW. A businessman by the name of Angus G. Wynn had just come back from a trip to the happiest place on earth. That's right, the one and only Disneyland. And after visiting Disneyland, one thought crossed his mind. What if there was an amazing big theme park that offered amazing rides and great experiences close to home? He traveled from Texas all the way to California, but there was nothing like that in Texas, and he wanted to bring something fun to his hometown. So with determination and commitment, he created Six Flags over Texas, a theme park based on the history of Texas and the 6 countries that used to conquer the state, with all 6 countries having themed lands with attractions that fit the theme. As time progressed, the park was a huge success and honestly rivaled Disney, as it had very unique attractions, from the world's first log flume to the world's first tubular steel coaster, Runaway Mine Train, with the best part being over Texas was cheaper than Disneyland, as Disneyland had a price model where you would pay for each attraction you would go on, but over Texas it was a one-time fee that guarantees you to ride everything once you pay admission, which was revolutionary and made over Texas hugely successful. As time passed, the park continued to grow to the point where Wynn would create some more theme parks, Six Flags St. Louis in Missouri, and Six Flags Over Georgia in Georgia. Both would contain the same historical themes up until Wynn's passing. After Wynn passed, the company's ownership would switch back and forth, and by the time Premier stepped in, the company looked very different than where it started. Originally, the sole purpose of Six Flags was to bring a theme park close to home that offered an amazing experience. But over time, as the coaster war was on the rise and more thrill seekers wanted thrill rides, the parks would just focus to thrill rides, so bigger additions, more extreme coasters, and etc. Not to mention, it wasn't just the 3 Six Flags parks anymore. Now it was across the US, as Premier acquired more and more parks and just slapped the name Six Flags on it, with no actual meaning to them. Since Over Texas and St. Louis and Over Georgia had their names based on its history, but parks like Magic Mountain or Fiesta Texas never really associated, turning Six Flags into a brand over a defining feature. And despite the new additions that were getting installed, this is where the problem began, as in a way it was too much to handle for Six Flags, and the quantity was growing as quality dropped. Especially when Warner Brothers stepped in to theme their additions, and parks like Over Texas, based on the history of Texas, started getting rides themed to Looney Tunes or DC, which made no sense in a historical theme park. And not only that, the issue today is Six Flags would play favorites, and that issue began back then, as parks like Magic Mountain and Great Adventure would get bigger and bigger, leaving other parks in the dust. And the third nail in the coffin, Six Flags would pull themselves to the brink of bankruptcy, all because they had too much spending on their hands. They would just spend, adding new rides to every park every year. And while that can seem like a good thing, it wasn't, because every new ride would just be clones or mediocre, with the occasional park getting something big. So overall, the spending with no benefit. And it was the business model that Six Flags started to live in, leading up to the issues we have today with Six Flags. In 2023, Six Flags still isn't considered the best, and in fact, some would argue it's considered way worse. To many, a ghetto theme park, That's a glorified carnival. And while there are some exclusions like Fiesta Texas, they tend to be right in some cases, as park quality dropped big time. And there was a time that Six Flags was on top of the world, with amazing themed experiences and a reason to visit it over Universal and Disney, because it was cheaper and yet the quality never dropped. But now with cheaper prices, they bring out the cheaper editions, and no wonder it's considered ghetto to many, because how can you defend spending money on a park that only gives attractions and nothing else? And these past 2 years will get progressively worse for Six Flags, as their new CEO Salim would up the prices and do nothing to change any of the parks. Meaning we're paying prices close to Disney level, not too close but closer, and the park was still the same quality. So what was the point? What was the point of spending so much to enjoy so little? And this is where Six Flags' fall off began. With a theme park chain like Six Flags having 13 parks all over North America, not every park is hold up to the same quality. You have parks like Fiesta Texas that really bring the quality, have new additions every year, and if not, get updated every month. Next to parks like Revert, Texas that would get additions once in a while, and the only updates they would get is some repaints. Clearly this is a problem, because how can you have so many theme parks, all considered mediocre, with the 1 or 2 parks actually top quality? And from someone that's not into business and all of that, it's clear to see this strategy is not sustainable at all. And it's no wonder Six Flags is losing lots of money. So to answer the question, did Six Flags fall off? My answer is yes, and we have historical proof to back it up. Six Flags back then used to thrive, and it was a well-known chain that everyone wanted to go to. Every park would have its experiences, and the quality was not considered mediocre. And yet, with modern technology and better attractions, it's crazy to believe that it's considered mediocre now, when in reality it could have gotten even better. So yes, the park did fall off, and it's not what it used to be. But here's the thing, what do you do in this situation? I mean, if we're gonna make a video about Six Flags falling off, we can't just say it's falling off and be done with it, because we already know this. There's no point in ranting and complaining when there's no solution to fix it. So here's my solutions. What made Six Flags so successful back in the day was the uniqueness and individuality of all the theme parks. If you went to Magic Mountain, it would not at all be the same as Great Adventure. And it wasn't just because of the attractions, but the entire experience overall. Unique theme lands in Magic Mountain would not be the same as Great Adventure. You would have walk-around characters that were unique to the story of Magic Mountain, completely different than Great Adventure. But nowadays with Warner Brothers, you have Looney Tunes everywhere, DC everywhere, and now the same attractions everywhere. And this is where the issue lies. Six Flags is not Universal and it's not Disney. It's not meant to be a theme park destination that the whole world knows about. Six Flags is meant for the locals. From the very beginning and from the first 3 parks, the park was built on history. The park was built for those who couldn't go to Disney or Universal and yet have a top-tier quality theme park close to home. The reason why Disney and Universal are so successful in what they do is they don't change their formula, or if they do, they still remember their roots. Universal and Disney are so special because there's nothing like it. No matter if you go to the one in California, or the one in Florida, or the one all the way in Tokyo, they each have individual experiences that make them different, but even that they struggle with because they have so little parks. But with a chain like Six Flags, this is a huge advantage. They have 13 parks across the states, and all 13 can be something individual. Over Texas can focus on Texas history. Magic Mountain can focus on what makes Southern California so great, while up north, Discovery Kingdom can focus on what makes Northern California so great. And the same can be applied for Frontier City, and Great Adventure, and Over Georgia, and etc. Despite having the brand name of Six Flags, they can each have their own things, which will make Six Flags better overall. Because 1, it'll give a reason to visit each and every one of those Six Flags parks, because no one park is the same. And 2, the focus on the locals near the parks is a great way to bring an amazing high quality theme park close to home, like the original mission of Six Flags. Although, while we now have the solution to fix Six Flags, how does one actually implement it? What does it take to make Six Flags unique and individual, and up the quality in all their parks, instead of playing favorites? Well, first, it starts with the park presidents. If you look at one of the most highly praised Six Flags parks, which is Fiesta Texas in San Antonio, Texas, the reason it's so successful is not just because of the rides and the theming, but the one who's in charge. The one who's in charge makes all those amazing things happen in the park, and that's Jeffrey Siebert. Jeffrey Siebert knows his audience. He knows the history of the park, and he knows how to live the legacy of the park as well as add to it. And that's why Fiesta Texas is so successful, because you have someone who loves the park individually and knows way more about their own park than the CEO would. And that's actually how it's supposed to be. The CEO should not decide what Over Texas or Fiesta Texas should get, because if they don't live in Texas, how would they know what the audience wants? How would someone who lives in California their whole life know absolutely everything about Texas, including how they talk, how they act? They wouldn't, because they never grew up there, and they don't know the history as well, no matter how much they can look it up online. And it's why the park presidents are essential in the success of Six Flags. If you give them full freedom to add everything they need to add to make their local park great, they'll know what to do, and they need to hire people that love the park and also grew up in there. Because truthfully, if every Six Flags park wants to be upgraded, we need this, no matter who the CEO is. One CEO cannot make the decision for 14 different parks. They're all separate and they all separately need their own needs. For example, Magic Mountain, they need some more flat rides and more experiences. But on the other hand, Six Flags St. Louis, they need a unique roller coaster. It's different for every park, and only the park president would know that. So maybe if the park president will go around doing upgrades like Jeffrey Siebert and then coming up ideas for the new ride, later submitting it to the CEO so you can approve it, that'll be the best solution. And if it's within budget, of course the CEO would have to approve it. There should be no excuse, and it's one simple change that can affect the entire Six Flags chain. But here's the good thing. This year when Six Flags made their new additions, it appears they might be stepping into a new direction, as the new additions actually made sense to all the parks. Fiesta Texas' new addition was the upgrade to the kids area, and it was desperately needed as it had lots of great attractions but the kids barely had anything. For Great America, they really needed a high-thrill flat ride, and even if a Zamperla Giga Discovery was cloned around, it really is the perfect addition for high thrill and lots of capacity. Sure enough, they got Sky Striker, and again it was exactly what they needed. And one final example is Great Escape. They lost the Avalanche Bobsled, but as a replacement they got another coaster, a family coaster similar to the bobsled, but of course more modern, and it's a wooden coaster. Essentially, it appears like Six Flags is actually looking out for all their parks and is planning to actually upgrade the experience, and hopefully this is the case, but we'll just have to wait and see. To conclude, Six Flags in its current state is not what they used to be, and yes, they were falling off, but luckily there is a chance that maybe, just maybe, if they focus on the individual parks Six Flags has, you wouldn't have some parks being better than the others, but instead get them all up to a higher quality and a higher standard, which in general could fix the Six Flags chain. But in the end, it's just my opinion and my theory. It really comes down to Six Flags if they're gonna do it or not. But anyways, what do you think? Is this a solution to make Six Flags better? And will they do it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And you could really help if you hit the like button for this video, as it'll help the video get recommended for many others, and maybe even Six Flags gets to see this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is JV Thrills signing out.